And hello, everyone. What is going on? This is the recap from Mercury, but there has not been an episode in months, right, Jeff? What could we
Not to my
possibly be
knowledge.
doing? There's been nothing. I mean, and we really missed the window on the controversy. So, we can't be talking about that. This is just completely wild. Anyway, what we're actually talking about is the fact that we're sponsored by RightStuff.com. Link in the description. In particular, I want to mention the high-grade Witch from Mercury 1/144th scale Guel's Dilanza. You know why? Because it comes in a lovely shade of purple. Fuchsia? Magenta? What do you think that is? Yeah, I mean, it could be that. It could also be that it comes with, it comes with your javelin and your sword and your gun and your feather piece. And you know what it is? It's in stock. It is in stock at rightstuff.com. The link is in the description. If you use that link to buy it from us, I literally get dozens of cents. Dozens. But what is really going on is that we maybe have a special guest this week. Hey, we've got Bradley Gareth, the voice in the dub of one Guel Jeturk and beloved new character Bob. How's it going, Brad?
It's going good, thank you. How about yourself?
Oh, it's doing great. And
Scott, how did you not name this episode Bob the Builder? The opportunity was right there.
What About Bob is a classic comedy no one remembers, starring Bill Murray and that other guy, who is also very funny.
The other guy. The other funny guy.
The other funny guy from the 80s. It's about a dysfunctional relationship between a therapist and Bill Murray, and I swear it's a good movie. I swear it's memorable. I promise you.
A lot of crossover between Bill Murray fans and Gundam fans, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just saying, Bob the Builder was right there.
I suppose. All right, so we are fortunate enough to be joined by Brad tonight, and just let's get off by throwing over to you a little bit about your background in voiceover.
Sure thing. My name is Bradley Gareth. I've been in voiceover for about 12 years. Let's say 12 years. I started acting when I was a little kid. I did like theater. I did school theater. I did community theater. I did high school musicals. I found out about voice acting when I was about 16, and I was like, that seems really cool. I want to do that. So I got my parents to buy me a really crappy headset mic, and I auditioned for like a Pokemon fan project. And they were like, hey, this project probably isn't going to come out, which it didn't. You should go audition at this other place called the Voice Acting Alliance. And I went over there. It was great. It sucked. It was a perfect. It was a den of scum and villainy, and I love it. It's gone now. But through that, I met other voice actors. I got cast in my first game. First real game was Seduce Me the Otome, which is not pornographic despite the name. And we
Important to say. I'm sure that came up with your mom.
Yeah. We were offered money to make it pornographic, and we said no. But from there, I did a bunch of indie games all throughout the rest of the 2010s. Did some radio stuff whenever I was in college, and then whenever I graduated from college, the plan was always to move down to Dallas to do anime, to pursue anime. For a voiceover, because I love all the other stuff, but anime was like the thing that really made me go, yeah, I want to do that. And I was going to move down. I came down to visit, and then we went, oh yeah, this is great. We're so ready to move down. And that was the last weekend of February 2020. So
a great time to do anything. Just totally normal time. I had a haircut scheduled that week, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Great time to make a decision about moving across the country. So we get locked down, and then we find out we can't really move. So then I was like, well, I have all this time. I had this money saved up to move, and I ended up saving more money to move just because I was like, there's nowhere to go. I thankfully my job went remote during that time. My day job, I mean, voice acting was always remote because there was really nothing I could do in Pennsylvania, where I was living at the time. So saved up a bunch, took a bunch of classes, managed to get into some very cool projects, including Lackadaisy, which is super cool. Thank you everyone who donated to that for the $2 million that they gave us. And then from there, moved down to Texas finally, and about the end of July 2021, started doing a little bit of stuff with sound cadence for anime. My one background extra in Kageki Shoujo, who goes, "Congratulations!" or "Our congrats to you." I forget which version it is now because my voice was all mixed into like 5 other people, so you can't even hear it. But that was like my first anime thing, and that was in like August or September of that year. And then from there, it's been about 2 years since then, and I've been lucky enough to do a bunch of other anime and games since then.
All right, and
I
I
think
know.
that covers it.
Yeah, so 3 years of working in anime and games. Are you still a fan of anime? Are you still watching stuff? Do you have something you like right now, or is it just work? Is it all work?
Well, I can tell you this. You don't do anime because it's a job. At least I don't. Excuse me, it's something caught in my throat. Anime, as everyone will tell you, anime does not pay enough to justify it being just work. I love anime. I do it because I love it. I am passionate about it. I am thankfully getting paid pretty frequently to do it now, but I love it. I love it to bits. I just finished the other day Chrono Crusade, which is an old show from like the 2000s, and I was like, oh yeah, that baffling ending to that one. But I also just like marathoned in the last couple days. I marathoned the rest of because I watched the first few episodes and I was like, oh, I'll get back to it. Watched the rest of the first season of Demon Slayer and Mugen Train. That was really good. And I mean, I love like all the classics that I used to. Like I have a list of like favorite anime. It's got like over 100 on there, and that's not including movies, which is a whole separate category. So I mean, I love this. This is like my life's calling is to do this. So. Asking me, do you like anime? You'd have to narrow it down a little.
One
I
of
mean,
us. One of us. One
I,
of us. One of us.
I mean, I mean, in my case, like semi-pro, well, pro podcaster, there are some shows that I still like from before, and there are new things I just can't stand.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because it feels like work. And there's one series in particular I didn't listen to for 4 years because they rejected me as a producer, and I'm like, well, screw that guy. I'm not listening to him. But
that's rough, man.
I mean, that's me being petty. The show turned out fine. I don't think I could have done better, but some of it just gets into my head. And I was wondering. So now that you started working, you really got into anime in earnest in 2021 and into now.
Yeah.
So how's that been transitioning from like the work from home, build your own booths phase to more work actually in the studio in Dallas? Is that normal? Is it weird?
It's a little weird. So it's sort of like a pattern, right? This is this is a very very inside baseball, but so acting in like theater, which is normally where I think most people end up learning to act. You know, you have other people on the stage that you can play off of. You have like a director who's usually telling you what to do when you're in rehearsal. You have an audience that you can play off of the emotions of to sort of like gauge, is this joke landing? Am I doing this right? That sort of thing. Whenever I made the transition to in the booth, it became very difficult. Like a lot of my reads were flat because lines don't have context. You don't have the voices of other people like playing back to you. Now, interestingly, I've actually had 2 experiences in the booth where I did do like back and forths, but it was not for anime. It was for Marvel Move, which just came out today. And it was for Lackadaisy, where all the actors in the scene were together in like in a call, in a Discord-esque, Zoom-esque setting. I forget the proprietary software name. I think it may have been Riverside. And we all just read the script together, and it felt like a real table read of how a musical or a play would be. And those experiences were very special. And the reason I bring them up though is that that's in those cases that's like audio drama and that's prelay. The way that most indie games work, which is the majority of my work before anime, you're recording alone. Like you're in the booth completely by yourself. Just a lot of the time, a Google Doc, a spreadsheet. When it's a spreadsheet, it's even harder to tell what the hell's going on. You just have to sort of be like, okay, let me play detective here. All right, I'm mentioning this, so I think my son is angry with me, and like you have to do that sort of thing because you're like, well, I don't really know, and the director was just like, here, do this within 3 days.
Oh, I mean, so things have not gotten better since Oblivion, when the actors got handed the lines in alphabetical order by first word.
I guess I've never had alphabetical. I've gotten sequential at least. That's at least good. I have not gotten alphabetical lines. So progress, I suppose. No, so like being in the booth, just by yourself for indie game work, with occasional direction. Like occasionally I'd land a game that had direction. Lake had direction. I'm trying to think. Fantasy Strike had direction. Like for the most part, there's no director, so you don't really have anything to go off of except your own instincts for how to sort of approach the script. Going into the booth and like timing up for anime, even though like timing up to lip laps can be tough, it's still easy. It's a pretty one-to-one transition because unless you get really stuck in the idea that you have to read it a certain way, which is like that sort of improv skills, I would say, you need to be able to hear the director go, "No, okay, that was great," but do it more like you're really trying to understand the question here. Not like you're angry about the question, you're trying to understand. Like changing the tactic. As long as you have that ability to do that, which again does take improv skills, it takes listening skills. As an actor, you have to be able to let go of like whatever version of the scene is in your head. You're good to go. I think for me specifically, it was pretty easy. Like outside of me feeling like I was gonna puke because I was like, oh god, I'm so nervous. I'm in the booth with all these people I really respect, and you can't like freak out and be like a fanboy in the booth with like directors. And I mean, I would if given the opportunity. Just for me, for instance, I've done work with Jerry Jewell and Colleen Klinkenbeard as directors. I loved. I don't know if you guys know it or if any of your listeners remember Case Closed, the Funimation dub of Case Closed. Those two were the leads, and I can't bring that up in like the booth because I have to be professional. So outside of that feeling of like, oh, I'm working with these people that I really love and respect, and I can't bring it up at all. Like I think it's pretty nice to be able to go, okay, this is what's happening in the scene. I have a director who's telling me, in case I need extra context, what's going on.
Like the rule I always heard, and this is from like working as an interviewer, is like, okay, you can be a fan of a band or an author or whoever you're interviewing, but you can't say that till 20 minutes in. Like you can't admit, like if you're doing a radio show and you've got, I don't know, like Mick Jagger sits down from you somehow, you can't say, oh yeah, Mick, I really love your work until 20 minutes in, because otherwise he does not believe you. It's just Jimmy Kimmel all over again.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine that in a scenario where it's like, oh, this guy's kind of my boss. Like if Mick Jagger was my boss, I can't say anything to him ever.
Yeah, exactly.
If I were, props to you, because if I were in your position, I could not do that. Like if I got to be in the same room with Bon Jovi, like okay, I'm going to listen to what Bon Jovi. I'm going to listen to his instructions and follow. I'd be like, dude, you are so awesome. Dude. Oh yeah, I have work to do.
Yeah. What did Bon Jovi tell me to do again? I lost track.
What? Can I have your autograph? Oh right, work first. Right.
It's on my paycheck. Right.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I said I would make an ass out of myself very quickly, and you didn't. Good job, sir.
I appreciate that. I mean, I think I had the benefit of like cons. I almost moved down here when I was about 18. Like I'd almost come down here for college. I was going to go to SMU, which incidentally I was going to go for theater, and like everywhere rejected me for theater. Anyway, I'm glad I didn't come down here for theater because at the time I was not like emotionally prepared to like do voiceover. And what I mean by that is at the time, like I remember I like met Richard Epcar at I think it was like Anime Boston when I was like 19 years old, and I just immediately flipped out. I was like, "Oh, you made me want to become a voice actor!" And he was like, "Cool, great." I'm
Uh,
sure, and like you can't do that. You can't do that in a studio. You will get someone talking, being like, "Look, you are being very unprofessional. You are making people uncomfortable." So I'm glad I didn't do that. I'm glad I wasn't here for that.
yeah, I mean that's it. And so we've established that you're a fan of anime, but like, were you a Gundam fan going into this dub?
So I feel like I'll be called a fake fan if I give my answer, but I'll give it all the same. So I'm gonna say yes, with the caveat that I hadn't seen a ton of it. I saw G Gundam, like I love G Gundam. That was my jam when I was a kid. Like I wanted to replicate like the vocal power of like Mark Gatha's Shining Finger my whole adult life.
He's an orthopedic he's an orthopedic surgeon now,
I know.
by the way.
I know he's a doctor now in like Newfoundland. It's nuts.
Well, what's funny is that the funniest thing about it is that he still does videos for that hospital, but it's like, hey, we want to thank all our donors for buying us this fancy MRI machine, and all the comments are just like talking about Mega Man X and Shining Fingers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Of course, you can't not do that. But yeah,
It's a weird day for their social media team, especially because
sure.
he's like sitting there with like an X-ray of a hand that he's about to operate on, and I'm like, I think that hand might be shining red.
oh my god. But yeah, like I loved like G Gundam. I watched like I've dipped my toe into other Gundam things. Like I saw like SD Gundam when I was a kid, a fair amount. But I can't remember any of it, so I'm not going to claim that one. I watched all of Gundam 00 when I was a teenager because and that was sort of like, oh, it's on the Sci-Fi Channel back when the Sci-Fi Channel used to show anime. Unless they still do, I have no idea now.
I don't
So yeah,
have cable.
yeah, me neither. So yeah, I caught all of Gundam 00, and then I watched, at the recommendation of a friend, I watched 08th MS Team. So I was like familiar with Gundam, and like more broadly, like I love mecha stuff. Like a couple of my favorite shows were like Evangelion and like Gurren Lagann. So Gurren Lagann. I'm getting mixed up. Gurren Lagann, I quite like. I don't want to claim to be a fake fan of something else. I quite like Gurren Lagann. One of my favorites is Evangelion and Big O, which are like things that I'm like, okay, I've seen Gurren Lagann like once. I've seen Big O and Evangelion at least like 3 or 4 times a piece.
Hey,
So
It's
go.
in my real job, IRL. I'm a teacher, and every once in a while, I'll have some kids come in with Naruto or Dragon Ball Z stuff or newer animes which I don't recognize. But the point is, I'll come up and I'll walk by and I'll give them a Naruto line. I'll say, "Hey, Shadow Clone Jutsu." And they'll look at me like, "How do you know that?" Like, I'm old and I'm a nerd.
Also, Naruto started in 1998. Let's think about
that's nuts,
that.
man.
That's what well, not so much that is Dragon Ball when they're like, "How do you know that?" I'm like, "I was watching Dragon Ball before you were born, kid."
Dragon Ball's from the 80s. What are you talking about, kid?
Yeah,
And I mean, I'm just
that's
gonna.
awesome.
I actually want to address the audience. There's no such thing as a fake fan. There's just new fans and dishonest fans. You can be new, and as long as you aren't like pretending to know stuff, like
My
I've
least favorite fan, the Gatekeeper fan.
yeah.
This is my thing, and you can't have it.
Especially with Witch from Mercury, which brought a lot of new people in. I'm like, no, come on in, like enjoy. It's a party. It's weird a lot of the time, but you can join in. You can join in. It's fun.
All right, I appreciate that.
Which-
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying the Witch from Mercury. I saw a lot of gatekeeping fans because Witch from Mercury is, for the most part, a very fun, light, almost a bit of a romantic comedy type show with mecha and your occasional death here and there. And for the most part, Gundam is not that. It's usually more of a darker tone, a more serious tone. G Gundam being the rare exception to that. So when I saw
Right.
people starting like gatekeeping. It's like, no, you can't. This isn't Gundam. This isn't the way it's supposed to go. I'm like, we've had how many series of Gundam? Something different could be nice. Because my favorite thing.
We're coming up on 50 years. We're coming up on 50 years, right?
My favorite thing about this show, among most of the Gundam shows I've seen, is every Gundam show has a certain, plot point or a certain, okay, this leads to this, and this leads to this, and this leads to that. To the point that when I watched Iron Blooded Orphans, the previous Gundam series, I could more or less tell what was going to happen before it happened. Okay, this is going to happen eventually. Okay, this is going to happen next. This person is going to die. There's no question about it. Which for Mercury, when we were recording this podcast, I would make wild predictions of what I thought was going to happen. I was wrong every time, and I like that.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's a show that I think does really good at defying your expectations. Because I had guesses about how like things would go in the second season, and I was just dead wrong about like half of them. But I appreciate that thought about gatekeeping because for me personally, I try to be like conscientious of this being a space where there's a lot of people that are like really ingrained in it as like Gundam fans. And while I think that gatekeeping efforts can be bad, I just also try to be respectful because I don't want to seem like someone's gonna come up to me about something and I'm gonna be like, well, I don't like ask me like. I don't know. I feel like I'm going to be quizzed or something about something that they're really excited about, and I don't want to disappoint them. So I'm like, no. I want to be definitive about what I can talk to you about and what I probably can't.
I mean, if you've ever seen Shatner, people go up to Shatner at cons and events, and they'll ask him about like certain episodes, and he does not know. He does not know episode names. He does not remember character names unless they were in the regular cast, and he tries to deflect around that and make fun of people for it, but it at a certain point you have to say like, you're an actor, and it's ask me about my performance, ask me about what I thought I did, and try to engage on me on that level first before you try to assume I'm a fan with the same amount of fan knowledge.
That's fair. It's entirely fair. I do think it's a very charitable reading. I do strive to at least try to be the type of person that's in this position where I try to be as amicable and because I know Shatner has quite the reputation not be like that because I do want to be kind, be as positive as I can about the things I really love about this. So that's at least my perspective.
All right, so you say you had guesses for season 2, and I want and this is maybe a question of a bit of inside baseball about the production because the dub for this started either like I think it started pretty late into the releases for the dub started pretty late into season 1 or even during the hiatus between seasons. So how early did you start work on that? Had you already been watching? Did you have a chance to watch a bunch of episodes and then start recording, or what was that scenario for you?
So here's what happened. I was not caught up on any Gundams for a while. I was, during the time that Witch from Mercury was originally airing in Japan, like my fiance and I had just gotten a puppy. Like we were doing a bunch of stuff. I was trying to be busy with work and all this other stuff. I was not keeping up with like the new anime of the season. My friend of many, many years was like messaging me being like, yeah, the new Gundam season looks pretty cool. I'm like, cool. And then, they send me like Guel memes and I'm like, yeah, that guy seems funny. And in my head, I'm like, oh, we're not getting that. Like, that's not even a possibility that's entered my mind because there's never been a Texas dub of Gundam. So I was just like, yeah, Gundam. Yeah, classic Gundam. And then the audition comes out in like January and I'm flabbergasted. I'm like, oh, geez, okay. I go in and I'm like, okay, I'll check out some episodes to get context for these auditions because audition sides are just the way that it's handled now. If auditions are handled at all, which a little bit of inside baseball, Crunchyroll does not have time to do auditions for every single show that we do because there's like something like 20 a season. That we dub, and holding 20 different shows worth of auditions and then having every director sort through auditions for every character in every show is not feasible. only really like sort of I guess priority shows that directors are like, this is important that we hold auditions for. Get auditions. In this case, Gundam was one of them. So we get the audition sites for Gundam. I go through, I watch the first few episodes, and I'm like, well, the Gundam sides that we have, because a lot of the time what happens with this sort of audition process is there will only be so many characters available on the audition, and the rest will be sort of cast based on that. Like, Lauda was not on the audition list, if I remember correctly. Lauda was probably cast off of Nazi reading for another character. So what happened was I look at the sides, and I'm like, I see on there are Guel, for the males, of course, Guel, Elan, and Shadik. And I'm like, well, I know Shadik. I should not be reading for Shadik. So I just looked up and, nope, I'm skipping that guy over. I pulled out the name chart, and I was like, that I'm a very white man, and I shouldn't be doing that. So I then went over Guel and Elan, and I went through, and I'm like, yeah, Guel seems more in my wheelhouse. On a very to be very light on a personal note, I remember I had gotten cast, which I was shocked about. I didn't think that I would, because like I was still very new. Like it raised a little bit of buzz that I had gotten cast because I had only been working. Like I had done that one bit at Sound Cadence in the end of 2021. Did no other anime for the rest of 2021. Only got into the Crunchyroll building in May of 2022. So it's like within 8 months of me getting in the building, I get like a character this big, which is not normal. So I was just like, oh my god, I was in shock. And I remember going in, and I went in, talked to the director. I was like, yeah, thank you so much for casting me. Thank you so much for casting me. This, this is incredible, because I didn't anticipate it. And he's like, yeah, you sound great. You sound like a guy that has a lot of dad issues. And I'm like, oh god, you're not wrong, but yeah, no, that's fair enough. So I was like, yeah, that's it. That informed everything. I went through and I was like, okay. Then I went through and like watched the rest of Gundam for like the context of what I would need to know for like the rest of which for Mercury. So that all happened within that stretch of the beginning of January when the auditions went out. I got cast, started recording, and we had no idea what was going to happen in season 2 for that whole stretch of time that we were dubbing season 1. Hopefully that answers your question.
No, that's kind of what I wanted to hear, Jeff.
I just want to be in that room when that was said. It's like, yeah, you did really good. You sound like a guy with a lot of dad issues. Thank you.
And then like,
and
then Chris Sabat voices your dad, just Vegeta sitting there.
I know. Yeah, it's so funny because I for many years, and I still probably, I'll maintain it. Why not? I would say he's my favorite voice actor. Chris Sabat's my favorite voice actor. And I'm like, oh, he's also playing my dad. Great. And I kill him. Damn it.
and I mean,
you killed Vegeta, you monster.
Yeah, I killed Almighty. God damn it.
You got him. And I mean, this character, I mean, like, obviously you got to see a fair chunk of season 1 before you really started dubbing this, from what I understand. But did you imagine the amount of stuff this character would go through in season 2, or did you just sort of see, oh, this guy's just a jerk who grows up, and then, oh no, he grows up? Were you shocked by that? What work went into making that happen in season 2?
So, from my perspective, like when we finished season 1, well, first of all, my best guess from the end of season 1 was, I was like, okay, I think either Lauda or Shadik is gonna kill me. Like that was my bet at the end of season 1. I was like, one of these two characters is probably gonna kill me. My thought on, I even considered it possible because Gundam I know is brutal, and depending on their thought process with characters, I might just have something horrible happen to me. I thought like non-zero chance I just die off screen. just I'm just dead. Like you see like the
just
end
froze to death in the intervening bit.
I thought like it may, like if season 2 started really brutally, like if they ended like right after like sort of like slaps that guy and kills him, I was like, yeah, we just cut to like 20 minutes later and like I've just or like a day later and I've just not gotten out of the what is it, the Dilanza soul that I'm in, and I'm just like in space, like freezing to death, and then it's just gonna be grim. Like I actually thought it was gonna be way grimmer than it turned out to be. That's where my brain went, just because I was like, oh yeah, it's Gundam, we're gonna go full Gundam, huh? So yeah, I think like, and I really was like, I didn't think, I thought I may have been dead. I thought like nothing was gonna happen when episode 3 came out, which is the episode where Guel comes back and he's like a captive on Earth. I was like, well, I was like, hell yeah, because as an actor, I'm like, yes, it's fantastic, perfect. I was joking with my fiance because I was like, the happiest thing that could happen to Guel, also non-zero possibility, is he just, after season 1, he just goes and like starts a farm on Earth. Like he just drops out of the story, lives very far away from anything happening within it. I was like, that's probably the happiest thing that can happen for Guel, is for him to stop being in the Gundam story. And I was like, but I don't want that, because I'm playing him, I'm the actor, I want stuff to do, which means I need him to be in more pain. So I'm like, my interests and Guel's are counter to each other.
Yeah.
Was how I explained it to her, and she was like, you were an enemy of Guel, Jeturk. I was like, that's right.
Yeah.
So that's where my head was at.
Okay, where is he? Where is he? He's on Earth. Okay, where is he? He's a war criminal and a prisoner. Woohoo!
Yes, exactly. I was like, hell yeah, let's do. When I saw in the next to last episode when he was going out to Lauda, I'm like, oh, I'm dead. I'm dead next episode. Hell yeah, let's do this.
Double fratricide. Let's go.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, let's end this horrible cycle of violence with Lauda killing me. That's what I figured was probably gonna happen. And I found it, like, I did find it so funny that they do that as close as possible before Felsy's like, this is stupid, you're not doing that.
Men would literally die to just go to therapy.
Yep, men would rather die than go to therapy.
All right, so
I'm going to ask
speaking of... You go first.
I'm going to ask this question as you as the anime fan, less as the actor.
Sure.
The end was a little bit controversial to people. Not so much that it was bad, is that it ended too soon. I understand that every show is supposed to leave you wanting more, but this is one of those rare times where a Gundam show ends and they're like, well, is that it? What? It seemed like an odd step off. I don't know if this is like post-pandemic and they're like, okay, things are happening, we need to wrap up the show quickly. Or maybe they said, okay, we're going to have this show at this many episodes no matter what happens. It was an astounding success, so I was 100% convinced. Now, we're getting to season 3. We're not done. And when it ended, I was a little surprised. Were you?
So there's a number of factors at play here. First of all, sales figures, the amount of time it takes to animate something like that, we can presume that the decision to have it be as long as it did was at least like a year beforehand. They did not know, most likely they did not know in the hiatus time how much, they did not know, sorry, not in the hiatus time. In the time between season 1 and season 2, they were probably just putting finishing touches on season 2. What was most likely true was everything was written beforehand, at least by like 2 or 3 years. And then it was all animated and figured out then. So most likely that decision was made, and they may not have known that it would sell as well as it did. So that's one thought. The second thought that I would have is thinking about the story that they're telling. Like, I do think it's odd that we just leave like the Earth stuff sort of aside. Like, we know that the Benneret group is just gone now. Like, they've dissolved it, and they're sort of kind of giving it back to the the people of the Earth, and that's being like distributed in a very I guess for comparison, if you guys are familiar with the anime Planetes or Planetes, however you want to say it, like the ending of that show where they renegotiate with the terrorists or whatever. So they're doing that, and I guess that there'd probably be a lot more work to get that resolved, but that wasn't what they wanted to include. So maybe they wanted to leave that open for like another show or a movie or something. But as a fan, I felt like this is something that exists within a very specific space, and I'll talk about this about as frankly as I can. I'm not putting blame on anyone specific whenever I say this. There is a tendency with queer media, which from Mercury is, its leads are two women in a relationship. There's a tendency to, whenever a show does that, when it pulls that type of thing, to either like kill them, which often happens, and then you don't have to deal with the like sort of nature of that relationship. To kill them, to break them up, have it be like this like sort of lost in translation thing where they don't end up in a relationship and maybe one of them ends up with a dude, or it ends like, or if they stick to it, the show gets canceled because then it's like, well, if you do this, then we're not making any more. And that famously happened with like Steven Universe, where like the show was supposed to have like a lot more time, and the network was like, well, if you're going to insist on this gay wedding thing, then we're not going to give you that much. And given that Bandai Namco seems to be very, shall we say, hesitant in a corporate sense for policy about the queer relationship in Witch from Mercury, that is entirely possible that that's what happened. And as a final thought, I do know that the writer from Witch from Mercury is also the writer from Code Geass, which, if you're familiar with Code Geass, the second season of that also condensed a lot really, really fast in ways that weren't necessarily like what someone may call satisfying, and it might just be that's just that writer's style of, yeah, let's get all this done like right now and we're done. So all of that is a possibility. I can't say because I don't have any like insider knowledge with Japan, but as a fan, I just kind of have to keep all that in mind. I'm kind of bummed if we don't get any more, both as a fan and as an actor. I'd love more. I don't know what they'd really do, per se. I don't know if they pull a Gundam 00 and just have it be like, all right, now aliens attack. And like just a movie where it's just aliens. We just do a full Gunbuster.
At the end of Gundam Wing, they said, at the end of Endless Waltz, and then all the Gundams were never seen again. So, no more sequels. And then they made a sequel anyway.
Yeah, so we can do that.
Because they added the line at the end. No more Gundams were never seen again. ... on Earth. Mars, however.
Earth. There you go. I think that would be really cool. I'd love it. I'd love it if I got to come back as Guel and like, I don't know, impale an alien ship or something.
Yeah,
whatever happens, I'd love it. I'd love to do that. And I don't know, fighting the aliens. We what's the movie? We Independence Day in Witch from Mercury, our way to like world peace.
I just had a mental image of Guel punching an alien and going, "Welcome to Earth."
Yeah, he pulls him out like he's Will Smith.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. But yeah, that
was a cigar. Now that was a close encounter.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so I actually want to dial it back to suffering, and there's one scene I want to ask you about in particular.
Sure.
So while Guel is in a terrorist prison camp, there's a scene where your character gets force fed. How do you do that in the booth? Because I know the trick to like, I'm choking on my own blood is to gargle Jello. What do you do when you're being force fed?
So a lot of that's in what's called the MNE, which I believe stands for music and effects track. So a lot of like the squishing sounds, a lot of like jelly sounds like that you hear in that, those were sound effects. The only sounds that I produce were like that sort of thing in there, and that's just like
threat stuff.
Easier, like yeah. It's a lot of throat stuff, a lot of in your mouth. At one point, and you can do stuff where you play with like your cheeks, so it creates a very specific sound. I had to play a I think I'm able to talk about this. In a project that I won't allude to specifically because I'm not sure if I can talk about whether or not I played this person in this thing because I'm not sure if it's out yet. I had to play a fish person, and what they wanted was like a fish language where you have to put it in the back of your mouth and you talk the entire time as though you're gargling water right in here. So I'm used to this idea of like placing air sort of in different parts of your mouth and your throat, and you're like crying and then having the food shoved in. Like it makes it easier to sort of produce that sound. If you see someone like D. Bradley Baker, he's a master of doing that type of thing, and that's a good like master class in being able to do that. So that's how we did that in there. Was me just being like holding my face and like rubbing my like throat, trying to produce these sounds to go along with it.
And when you're practicing that, your fiance looks across the room and wonders if you're okay.
She knows not to worry about me anymore. I scream bloody murder in here, and she's like, yeah, whatever. I could get killed in here. There's a good. It would be like a perfect alibi. It's just you'd hear a scream in here, and they'd be like, that's just him recording something, and then they would be able to
He's
place
just
the
doing
timer.
efforts
Yeah.
for a game. He'll be
Yeah,
out in 4
exactly.
hours.
Exactly. I had to do effort. FPSs are the worst for this. I had to do like a million screaming while I'm getting lit on fire, screaming while I'm getting electrocuted to death, screaming while I'm getting blown up for what was it? Trepang 2. Trepang 2. I had to do a bunch of NPCs and I died like 50 different ways or something like that.
Someone see. Here's the thing. I've met people who write for these exact same scenarios. It's like, no, you have to write that. You just have to sit down and write.
Yeah.
Like, someone has to say like, okay, I need 40. Get stabbed, get shot. 52 gets shot. Shot in the leg versus shot in the arm.
Yep. You need
400
Come up with
versions of
52 version.
400 versions of
52 versions of getting shot.
Yeah, I need
Yeah,
14 the green team is winning speeches. I don't know. Figure it out.
Yeah, you need if you want an ice weapon in your game, you have to have the sound of someone getting frozen. If you want a fire weapon, you have to have the sound of them catching on fire. If you want someone getting eaten by 1,000 insects or something in your game as like a weapon, then you gotta have efforts for
Covered
that too,
in bees.
Yeah, covered in bees. If you want someone covered in bees, you gotta write what that sounds like. So you have to perform that. So you gotta be able to be used to it. So yeah, the suffering scene in the booth. In the I think it was a bathroom stall with Guel where he's getting force fed. Yeah, that's how he did that. You just have to be ready to do that kind of thing.
All right, so in season 2, the fan reaction to Guel was really strong. He was the most popular male character in any anime in the spring.
Yeah.
Has that turned into a lot of profile? Has that boosted you at all, or is it mostly, or you won't know for another 6 months?
I probably won't know. Well, I won't know for another 6 months for sure. No matter what, just because that's the nature of how this works. I can tell you right now, it's funny. I mean, I think it's important as a dub actor, unless the show is airing on Toonami, which is big culture, or unless it's on Netflix, which everybody has. I think it's the safest approach to any role is love it while you do it. Don't expect people to watch the dub, because I had a specific case of this too. I don't know if either of you watch sports anime, but I'm in an anime called Blue Lock, and Blue Lock is this big famous soccer anime, and I play the Juve Audio, the most fabulous soccer player. And I remember I was at my friend William Afobu's house or his apartment, and he had a guy over assembling I think some furniture for him for a housewarming thing, and he just calls me and he's like, Brad, get in, and then I'm like, oh, okay. I get up from whatever I'm doing. I go in, and he presents me to this guy, and he goes, William looks at me and goes, do your audio, and then I do a line, and the guy looks at me and goes, I watched the sub. I'm just like, yep, that's right. And I just walk away because it's that's what you're gonna run into. So I love all the feedback that Guel gets, but it is disconnected from me. A lot of the love is for the Japanese, which is fine by me. The Japanese voice for Guel is spectacular. I enjoy being able to sort of ride the proverbial coattails of that. Even if it's not specifically for me. I have gotten nothing but positive feedback from people who have watched the dub, which I really appreciate. But a lot of that, I think, is primarily for sub fans.
Yeah.
Is Guel your favorite role to date? At least in voice acting?
I feel I'm going to have to give you the generic answer of I love all my children equally. I love every character I played. I can't think of one.
Nice cop out.
I wish I could pull the Arrested Development. I do not care for Job, but I can't think of one that I hate. No, Guel was incredibly meaningful to me. I mean, this last year and a half has been some of the most rewarding work I've ever gotten to do. Within the last year and a half, I got to do Coach from Gunbuster. Absolute classic, launch.
That getting redubbed is huge, and seeing the amount of young talent on the Gunbuster dub is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was so rewarding because I I loved doing that because Evangelion meant so much to me. Evangelion kind of got me through my teenage years, and like knowing Anno also suffered with depression was like so meaningful to me. And getting to do that was just it was incredible stuff. Like Digimon, which I got to announce, where I get to stand in, very sadly, for the actors for like Greymon, Metal Greymon, Angemon, and Seraphimon. Like that's incredible stuff. Guel, obviously, Hikage Shinomori and My Hero Academia. I get to be in like My Hero Academia. I'm very lucky. I'm very dare I say blessed by the amount of opportunities I've gotten to play. But I do want to emphasize that Guel holds a very special place in my heart, very very close to me for that. Because I think I'll at least say this, which is that I think there are a lot of stories. I'm going to use like the recent Voltron show as an example, where someone experiencing abuse just ends up sort of copying their parent. And the way that Guel it deals with like Vim Jeturk being like this abusive jerk. I think Shadik says like all he cared about was like corporate intrigue and like enriching himself. And by the time we see him in Witch from Mercury, that seems to be true. They released all those like flashback images after Vim was dead between season 1 and 2, where it seems like at one point he may have been a much better dad. But we don't see that. We just see the bad times. And I think that I really appreciated getting to sort of go on the journey of this guy that it doesn't know what he wants, is dealing with that level of like abuse, and then having to sort of deal with that like ongoing legacy of like the crappiness of what like the Jetter company was doing, and how his dad treated other people, and just not moving on from being like a bully to being someone that really tries to, even in the case of getting shut down by a girl, he doesn't turn into like an anime nightmare villain where he's like, I will make you fall in love with me. He's just like, yep, that's fine, it's okay. I'm basically in your corner forever now. That's how it's gonna go. And that's I really appreciate that. I think I love that about Guel. I loved playing Guel for that. I appreciated being able to take part in a story of someone sort of overcoming that state of like being, outwardly abusive because he was experiencing abuse. That meant a lot to me, and that always will. So that's my relationship with Guel.
I'm going to throw a very nerdy question at you just because I want to see your reaction. Sure. Let's pretend they redub Evangelion.
Okay.
Again. Let's pretend they come to you.
A third time, yeah.
Let's pretend they come to you and say, okay, who do you want to voice? Is it Shinji?
My voice is a little low for Shinji. Like here's they know. I wish that I had level of voiceover clout to be like. Well, for one thing, if anyone ever approached me and said like, "Hey, we're doing this show. Who do you want to be?" My first response is, "Did you get the license? Are you just doing this? Is this just like, yeah, we're dubbing it again. We're doing it in my garage. We're gonna sell the DVDs at Walmart.
The anime Matsuri deal, right?"
Yeah. No.
Well, the reason I ask is if I ever got, for whatever reason, said, "Hey, we want you to write a show." Oh, cool. We want you to write a Gundam show. I'm like, I can't do that. I'm too close to it. I just know I'm a fan of it. I can't be that close to something I'm a fan of. I wouldn't be able to separate myself from my fandom.
And that's I think a fair thought. I think I'd be very intimidated specifically because of that. There's a genuine issue, I think, whenever you're a fan of something where you have a specific idea of what it's supposed to sound like or how it's supposed to be written. Where if you were supposed to come up with something new, then you might just end up imitating the style of the old one. For that reason, like, if you were to put a gun to my head and say, what character would you be cast as in Evangelion if you thought it would be a good casting that would be, like, solid all the way through, I'd probably say Kaji, Ryoji Kaji, because that's the closest to my normal range. I don't think I sound old enough for like Futsuki or Gendo. I sound a little too old probably for Shinji. Uh, I Cal, you could argue that Kaori might need to be played by a gay or non-binary actor. You and also probably a higher pitched one than me. And then outside of that, I mean, like, what do I say? Pen Pen? Like,
Well, I mean, Pen Pen. I think everyone should be. I think Pen Pen's the first choice for everyone. I mean,
everybody loves Pen Pen. That's right. Probably throw it all on Pen Pen.
And I mean, wouldn't it be great to be the seventh Toji? The seventh.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, I'll say for Toji, like, no, nothing against Brett Weaver, because I do think he does a good Toji. I loved Justin Cook as Toji. I think that really worked. And I do like just being really nerdy. I like that in some spin-off manga, specifically, I think it's Campus Apocalypse, that they gave Toji like the hard Osaka Brooklyn accent that they gave to like Joey Wheeler in the Yu-Gi-Oh dub. I would be delighted. Like if they cast me as Toji and said, "You're gonna do it like this," like you have to do it with the Brooklyn accent the whole time. Where it's like, "I had to punch you, transfer student. You hurt my sister." Like I'd do that in a heartbeat. I'd be like, "All right."
I got the Brooklyn Rage against the Angels.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I could do that, that'd be spectacular. I'll say that on a personal note, like whenever I was a teenager, I was like, I think I realized, like I had this moment of clarity with Ava where I was like, I think the character I'm probably closest to, and I don't know how much of this is like deliberate on Anno's part for like the audience, is Kensuke. Because Kensuke is the guy that's like, oh, I would love to be in an Evangelion. I would love to be a pilot. That'd be great. I wish I was getting this attention from all these girls that you hate, Shinji. God, I wish I were you so badly. And he's just like out there in the field, like playing like.
Yeah. And like they basically have the exact same character in Full Metal Panic. I think he's also named Kensuke.
That's incredible. I love that.
He gets to have superpowers in Fumafu. He gets a new type flash in Seed Mode and everything in Fumafu. But that's
nice.
Fumafu.
I find it so funny that they let Kensuke pilot like occasionally in spin-off materials as well, and he's the biggest dork ever about it. But yeah, no, like anything Evangelion. All this is, you could cast me as anything in Evangelion. I'd be like, yes, absolutely. If they dub it for whatever time, I'd feel bad. Well, I'd probably reach out to like whoever played him previous to be like, hey man, just so you know, they're asking me about it, because that's like courtesy. Like it's considered, I think, like actor courtesy to be like, hey man, they're like recasting, I think, this character. Is it cool with you? I could turn it down if it seems like they're like screwing you out of the deal, because sometimes what happens is that just being very real about the business here. Sometimes what happens is that they're trying to like negotiate down an actor for like a character role. Like this happened very famously with John DiMaggio and Bender, where like they sent out open auditions for Bender to try to be like, well, no, we're not going to raise your pay. We could just get this random guy that we found that can do it.
Even before that, back in the 90s, I think around season 4 or 5 of The Simpsons, they almost recast. Recast Hank, and they were Hank Azaria, and like Maurice LaMarche was the guy they reached out to first, and Maurice was like, "I don't take work from anyone who is alive."
Yeah, that's the right response, because I think that's right.
He did do, like, he only took Mr. Freeze in the Arkham games, because at that point, I'm blanking on the name of the guy who originated Mr. Freeze in the animated series. He was very sick at the time. He was very sick at the time, and he made a point of calling it. It's like, I know you're very sick and probably turn this down, but like absolutely certain you don't want to be back for Mr. Freeze. And he said, yeah, no, it's fine. And
that makes sense. I'll say as well, for me, like even in that scenario, like I got cast as in the Digimon thing, like I alluded to before, because the couple of the actors had passed away, and one of them, Dave Mallow, who played Anjumon and Serafimon, he is very sick, and he can't really come back for the role. I don't feel comfortable. Like, I was fine with like announcing it and saying that it meant a lot to me. I don't feel comfortable. Like, I'm not gonna get like Prince. I'm not gonna go around being like, I'm in the Digimon thing as these characters, because it's not mine. Like, it doesn't feel like it's mine, and I don't want to sort of trample on other people's work. That feels really uncomfortable. So I feel like it's the most respectful way to go about it, is for me to just be like, yes, I tried to live up to it as much as I could. So I'd probably also do that with Evangelion, even if they reached out to me. Just be like, I just want to be as respectful to whoever had this last, because holy crap, they keep redubbing that over and over again.
Yeah. So I think this show's about to turn into a pumpkin, but there's a goof. Someone when I brought this up on the socials, someone said, "Oh, ask him to sing this song," and I'm like, I'm not going to ask him to sing it on the spot, but I want to play this bit of audio from Yohei Asakami's podcast. He's a podcaster. He also talks about Mature Mercury week to week, but he cooked this up 1 week, and maybe you have to figure out how to sing this on your own time. But let's see if I've got this queued up right.
野心の光贅沢贅沢野心の光贅沢贅沢強豪を潰す乗って強い動いて強いやれる壊せるダリルバル
I assume they asked him to do that as like the answer to like the advertisement for was it Gundam?
Like I think he like again this apparently this whole podcast is him operating on his own. Like he's just like, no, I will come up with a song to the Gundam jingle.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I'd have to figure that out on my own. I'll bet it's a secret. I don't speak Japanese, so I'm like, I don't know what he's saying.
Yeah,
I
like
guess I could catch a couple things, but no idea.
Yeah, I did not want to put you on the spot to sing that, but someone said, "Oh no, let him hear this and see how it reacts."
I mean, it's incredible. It's awesome. If they told me to do that, or if someone sent me like the lyrics, I'd try. I'd try to adapt. Like if they sent me like a translation, I could try to adapt that into something.
Yeah. All right, Jeff. Last one. We got to close this up, right?
There's a good way to end this because that would be the weirdest thing. To wrap this up from what you started at, you said one of the first shows you ever dubbed was not adult. It could have been, but it was not. What is the strangest thing you can ever remember voicing? Game, anime, live action, play, something where you just look back and go, "You want me to do what?"
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm looking at my resume right now. I'm trying to remember what I've done. Okay, I can tell you about one of the strangest. Yeah, you know, I'll tell you about one of the strangest experiences I had. And I do want to emphasize whenever I say this, the people that did this were very, very nice. But whenever I had first moved down to Dallas, I was like not sure how to get work. Basically, like I wasn't sure how to do like the dubbing thing. I had ideas. I'd had like classes. I was doing all that, but I was like, well, let's figure out what other acting I can do here. So I'm in a class, and then I get recommended to go to this other live action dubbing studio that I will not name. It's a live action dubbing studio, and the way that you get into this live action dubbing studio is you just email the guy that owns it, which is very unusual. That's not usually how it's done. So just send them a reel, like you don't send auditions or anything, and what will happen is they'll just sort of call you in, like clandestinely, and it can happen in like the middle of the night. Or they'll be like, "Hey, can you show up to our building for like a few hours?" And it's like, cool, sure. And I remember I got cast in this one thing. It was a Chinese movie, or it may have been Mongolian. It was about a monster snake. But it was also people, it was like a meta movie, because it was people are making a movie about like a fake monster snake, and then they encounter a real monster snake, and it like kills most of them. But the way that I find this out is I go in, and I go to the building, and I don't think I'm at the right building at first because it looks like the building is condemned. There's like blacked out, like moth-eaten tarp over the glass door, and the guy, the engineer, like sort of pokes it. Like when I have to like I like message and I send an email because I'm like, what do I do here? And I immediately post it, and he's like, "Welcome." The building is dark, by the way. This engineer has been sitting in the dark in this like building. and he lets me into this like weird lobby where there's very little light. Like I don't know if they just couldn't afford to keep the lights on. And we get brought into this like normally what happens with live recording is you get brought into a booth where there's like a little glass like separating you and the director and the engineer. I get brought into a room where there's just like a big projector and there's like a computer in the back and there's just a mic sitting in front. So there's no glass. I ask him like, I'm not sure if he's the engineer or the director, and he goes, "Oh, I'm both. We're doing both." And I go, "Okay." He goes, "All right, so we're going to do this movie today. It's about this monster snake, and it's a Chinese or Mongolian movie." I'm like, "Cool." And then I'm like, "Well, okay, so what's this? Let's pull up the script." And he was like, "Oh, there's no script." So I'm like, "Oh, there's no script," and it's like, "Nope, we're just reading the subtitles." So we're just reading the subtitles, and I play the main like director in the movie, and I remember I was like, there would be many times where I go, that doesn't sound right, and he would be like, "That's the flaps well enough. We're going forward. We don't have time. We don't have time to like worry about how it works." And sometimes it'd be like, "Are we addressing the same person? Like, is that name correct?" He'd be like, "No, whatever, just move on." And I remember, like, for one thing, by the way, the options for getting paid here. Normally, you get paid. I'm at least gonna say it's better than like this. I'm not gonna go into specific pay rates. But I will tell you that this is the lowest one that I've seen, where the offer was $11 an hour, or for a full day's work, or $50. And we'll buy you lunch. So, and I was like, "Oh, okay." I chose the $50 option because I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be here like 6 hours. I don't want to buy lunch." So it's just me and the director engineer. So we finished recording the main character, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, "I'm done, right?" And he's like, "No, you're gonna be like 3 other like main characters in this movie." And I'm like, I haven't been given any sides, I haven't been given any notes, I haven't been given pictures, I have no idea what they're supposed to say, I gotta know what their characters are. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm like 3 other characters in this movie. We break for lunch, and it's just me and him. Well, we go out to Olive Garden, and he's like, "Yeah, a bunch of people come through here, and then they just stop doing this here." And I was like, "Yeah, that's fair." And he's like, "Yeah, this is probably the best job I've had." And I'm like, "That's fair." Just awkward. We get Olive Garden. We bring it back to the studio. We go to their soundstage, and it's this dimly lit little like black box studio, and we just sit in the middle like under this spotlight, just eating like there could be like an audience there just watching us eat food, and he's just like, "Yeah, this is great. This is my one meal I get to eat every day." So he's like "I eat one meal a day," and I'm like, "Man, I hope you're doing all." In my head, I'm like, "I hope, can you eat more than that?" He's like, No, it's fine." I guess it's really good that we did the lunch option then.
Oh, if you hadn't have picked lunch and he just left for like half an hour to pick up the fettuccine Alfredo.
I don't know. I don't know what would have happened. I don't know if he'd been like, "Yeah, I just would have waited until I got home." So then we go back in, and I record like another guy, and I'm like, "I don't know, this kind of sounds like the same voice." And he's like, "It's fine, don't worry about it." And then I record another guy. I remember I add in one joke. I think like because the actor's complaining, there's like some untranslatable Chinese thing or Mongolian thing that he says about like the snake, and then I think I made the joke, "Is the snake getting union rates?" And he was like, "Yep, we'll put that in. That fits the flaps." So then we do that, and we leave, and I just remember being like walking out, and he was like, "Yep, you're done. All right, and maybe we might call you back for like another Russian movie or another Mongolian movie." I left, and I remember it was like a year and a half until it got released on TV, and it was exclusively at like Walmart, and that was the only place you could get it. So again, bringing it back to the Anime Matsuri thing, I'm like, I don't know, do you have the license for these? Did you? It was the strangest experience. I genuinely, I came out of that like, did I get did I get fed like a pill? Did that happen? I had to confirm later. I still am not totally sure it happened. I remember
Drive
finding-
past that shed and see if it's still there.
Yeah, exactly. If I drive past it, will someone go, no one's been in that building for years. By the way, the postscript to all of this is I remember being on stage at a panel recently at a con, and I talked to the lady who had told me about that studio, and I brought up that I was getting $11 an hour or $50 in lunch, and she looked at me and went, I got $50 an hour. I just stared at the audience like Jim from The Office, just. I guess they
Yeah,
assigned me
but
the
you
lunch.
didn't get Olive Garden.
You didn't get Olive Garden. That's true.
That is how that works. All right, so we got to spin this down. Brad, where do people find you on the internet?
Sure, you can find me at anime_brother on Twitter for as long as Twitter continues to exist. At Bradley Gareth voice actor on Instagram. You can also check out my website, bradleygarethvo.com.
All right, so thank you once again. Thanks for everyone in the chat. Thanks for you hanging out. If you're catching this on the audio version later, thank you. Leave a rating, leave a comment, leave a review, tell a friend, do something. And the other thing you should do is go to redstuff.com and get yourself a high-grade Dilanza Guel custom, because they still have it in stock. It comes in a lovely shade of purple. It comes with all the accessories you would want, including an action base and the feather thing, and otherwise, use the link in the description so they know I sent you and they can send me some nickels for that. Thank you all. Have a lovely time.
Thank you.